Oh, I
Yeah,
see. Well,
it's
like I
happy
said, I don't
hour.
have a glass up.
Yeah. This is a rare opportunity for us to be recording
And
so
drinking.
late in the day,
Hmm.
but this is producer's happy hour.
Yeah, it is producer's happy hour.
Yes, this is Lawrence Lewis.
And this is Sister Christian.
Today is Thursday, August 20th, 2020. This is the Producer's Happy Hour, a weekly podcast with two producers on opposite coasts. Christian's in New York City, I'm in Los Angeles, and we're exploring what it means to be a good producer as we come out of this global shutdown and figure out how to get the film industry back to work safely while still navigating the coronavirus.
We find ourselves being asked to take on greater responsibilities from a variety of guidelines created by multiple sources. Now more than ever, it's important for us to keep sharing our experiences and ideas.
So email us, or better yet, record a 1 to 2 minute voice memo and send it to us at producershappyhour@gmail.com. Let us know if you're working. Let us know how you're working. What's going on out there? The only way for us to get the industry back to work is by sharing everyone's methods of keeping everyone safe.
Yeah, and please share this show with your friends, colleagues, your dog walker. We want these stories to be heard, and they're important, because I know that, I don't know about you, Lawrence, but I've been hearing a ton of stories on how people are getting back to work, and a lot of them aren't good.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot too. And now that I'm officially prepping a job.
I know. Everyone, Lawrence took a job.
I did. I'm actually working, and I don't want to,
Yeah.
I'm not here to gloat.
No, please. If anybody out there, this is not gloating, I promise, that we're not bragging that we're working.
I have to tell you, man, it's hard. It is really hard. It's a whole different ball game.
Well, how are you doing?
I'm exhausted. I just got back. I had a director scout today, and
Fun.
It's man. Yeah, there's a lot.
It's double the work,
It's
right?
double the work, if at least that. Yeah.
The first job I had back was like 20-hour days every single day.
Yeah.
There's no avoiding it.
There's no avoiding it. And, I was out of the house today, scouting locations in person, which is amazing.
Exhausted, right?
Exhausting, but amazing. We started early so we could do it before the heat.
Oh, did you go in
crazy
people's
out.
houses?
No. It's all exterior. All exterior, no. So when I left, it was early, 6 a.m. And I don't know if you know this, but California's on fire.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So the sunrise was just apocalyptic. And so I'm out of the house doing the director scout thing, and then I come home to find Steve Bannon's been arrested.
I know.
Lyft has ceased operations in California. Apparently, Trump's taxes are being allowed as evidence in some court case. An amazing drag queen, Chi Devane, has died.
I did not hear that's horrible news.
Just a whirlwind has happened just while I was...
It's because you left the house.
It's because I left the house. Whew, man.
It's overwhelming. And I do have to say, too, Lawrence, I'm so sorry for missing last week. I missed you all very much. Just so you know, it was heartbreaking, but I did not realize how quickly that we could overcommit ourselves in this new time.
Oh, yeah.
And the desire to work with people that trust you and rely on you is large. It makes you feel good. And of course, you've earned those respect and relationships. But the boundary discussion that we had with Yehuda, just in the back of my mind, just boundaries. And that just doesn't happen, So overcommitting is pretty easy in this era as well. And I agree with you wholeheartedly on we've been home for 5 months and watching the news.
Mm-hmm.
Leave the house and you're like, oh shit, what did I miss? And you missed a lot today. A lot, dude.
Yeah. How are you? How are you doing?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I feel like the thing that I've been talking about in my head and with everybody else has been the unexpected thing that's going to happen on your job due to COVID.
Yeah.
That nobody could have foreseen. And nobody, you could be all over it in everything and know every rule out there, and something just whack you because you have no idea that this could be a problem. And let me tell y'all what it is. I'm going to share and teach you for a moment.
Okay.
So in LA, you guys have to have permits for children to work permits.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out work permit office is closed. So before, when you were able to book a child, you could book them. They would get a same day permit.
Yes.
That's no longer
a thing.
So you can't wait to book your talent until even a week in advance, because who knows when it'll come in.
Yeah.
But so if anybody wants more information on that, let me know. However, there's this new crop of people who have popped up called expediters.
Oh, of course.
Who can somehow like figure out how to get you through there. It's not that the offices are closed, it's that they're working from home.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So you can't walk physically in the office and do it like you used to be able to.
Right.
But you can't go online and do it either. If you you could get all the way through it and then one thing is off, like you're over 16 or you've done it before or 6 months ago, or there's some reason that it will reject you.
Yeah.
So that's my tip of the day.
Beware of everything.
Beware. Or if you happen to be filming with kids, make sure your casting director asks everybody as they're being cast
permits,
if they have a permit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's an upside down world, Kendrick. Yeah.
It's exhausting.
Exactly. Fortunately, the company I'm working for has been doing a great job with COVID. So that is a very, very good thing. So that aside, doesn't make it any easier. Everything's still a challenge, and everything's a new discussion, and it's all brand new. So so here we are. I missed you last week. I had a lot of fun doing my own podcast without you. I hope the audience didn't.
It was very entertaining.
But today, because we've been working, we didn't have time to interview anyone today. So we're going to...
Ooh, an archive. Everyone get excited. We have something from a pre-COVID era for you.
A pre-COVID interview with a great location manager, Romeo Santiago. But before we get to that, like the original concept of the show before the world turned upside down...
Yes.
We were meant to chat about what we're drinking. So, Christian, what are you having for happy hour today?
Well, so before I rushed down here to get on because just so everyone knows, it's after 8:00 in New York, and I was doing stuff and working today. So this was the first opportunity I was able to record. So I grabbed a bottle of damn good Pinot.
Ooh. From Monterey.
But I forgot a glass, so I'm drinking it straight from the bottle. What are you drinking today, Lawrence?
Always the classiest.
Sisters.
Yeah, today I'm drinking a new beer by Stone Brewery. It's the Buena Neveza. It's a salt and lime lager, which is lovely on a summer heat wave night here in Los Angeles.
Is it assaulting your lime?
You're too much.
Is it delicious?
It's delicious, and it's refreshing. And I've had a very long day, so it's well-deserved. Well-deserved. So,
yes, it's been a long day.
It's been a long day. There's a lot of stuff going on with healthcare within our own industry. SAG has altered their eligibility requirements by raising them a hefty percentage.
Mm-hmm.
People are up in arms because we're in the middle of a pandemic, so now they're making it harder to get insurance. They are going to raise the earning floor for eligibility from $18,000 a year to almost $26,000 a year, and that starts January 1st. And the trustees, this is from an article in Variety, the trustees said that without restructuring, the plan is projected a deficit of $141 million this year. People who are, all the actors we know names of, this doesn't affect them. But it's affecting all the working actors, all the commercial actors, all the people we see in our casting rooms, job to job. And
so basically, I believe that it is set up that it's the same across the board, meaning that if you make a gazillion dollars a year as an actor, you still pay the same amount.
Yeah, exactly.
And so what they're saying that it should be is that if you make more, you should pay more and pay for those people who are the struggling actors.
Right. And there's something happening with PHBP.
Oh, yeah.
I know nothing about this. I've been
well, it's just so this is an editorial by Sister Christian. The old school model of production company being a union is kind of dying, and it's been dying for a while.
Yeah.
And so PHBP then in 2014 started taking in staff.
Yes.
Okay. So we all know these things. Sean Cooley was on. You can go back. I think it was episode 106, maybe. I don't remember, 107, something like that. You guys can go back and just listen to it, right? And right now, they service about 1,500 freelancers and their families. About 2,200 staffers, or vice versa, something like that. So altogether, it's like 3,800 people. So I'd like to know, and this has been I've been railing for this answer for so long, is there's so many more of us out there than 1,500.
Oh yeah,
so much more. So PHBP really only services, in my opinion, cannot service more than 25% of our community, if not way less than that.
Yeah.
And so PHBP has been certainly good to their members, but they've had to restructure it year to year because they can't afford the good healthcare like I used to have. And so now there's the fights up again on co-pros. And that's all I was saying. Like, yes, they service the ones who get it. Fantastic for you guys. I love it. But employer-based healthcare is just not something that, is a model that we can sustain any longer.
It's definitely not.
So between SAG and PHVP, and everything else if nobody's working, I can't.
I mean, if nobody's working, just that statement alone, it's like talking to one of my crew members who's just been desperate for some days. Putting kids through college, trying to get days on any job possible, had 4 holds, all went away except my job. It's just heartbreaking. It's heart-wrenching, to be honest. I got home and I grabbed a coffee at my local coffee shop, Vita Cafe. You know it, right at the end of my street.
Do you see the girl with the blue hair?
No, she's at Maru.
Oh, okay.
I did see her, though. She's back. But I know all the people at Vita as well, because we're there literally steps away from my front door. So we see them all the time and get to see them. They're back. They're serving coffee. And she's like, oh, did you hear the news? We're shutting down. Next Friday is the last day. I'm like, what are you going to...
everybody who's roped it along for this long to stay open. August was it. That was everyone's deadline.
The rent went up.
What?
The rent went up. And they were trying to negotiate, and the landlord says, nope, get out. Pay or get out. It's just... That's all, really.
And so I've decided that I'm going to open my own Marfa, Texas, upstate New York, if everybody wants to come.
Christopher and I were just talking about that. How do we create a new Marfa, Texas?
Well, our friend Ahmet just found 300 acres.
Really?
So anybody who wants to come in on it, we already have plans starting to draw up plans.
Sign me up. All right, let's throw to the interview. Let's learn some stuff about locations back in the good old day before we had to worry about all this stuff from Romeo, Santiago.
Oh, yes.
But first, go to our website, producershappyhour.com. On there, you're going to find a page called Do the Work. That page has a lot of anti-racism resources for you to educate yourself on the issues of racism that have long plagued our society, as well as actionable things you can do to support the Black Lives Matter movement. And it's especially important in production.
The solutions need to be bottom up, not top down.
Exactly.
We can all find a handful of Black directors. But where it needs to start is at the bottom, and people having the opportunity to work in every crew position, not just the top level positions.
Yes. And I like to normally feature a petition, but today I'm featuring the What Matters 2020 campaign by Black Lives Matter. And what this is a campaign aimed to maximize the impact of the BLM movement by galvanizing BLM supporters and allies to the polls in the 2020 U.S. presidential election. This election, man, it's just...
Post office. We've been harping on it for months, people.
And then, jeez. The other page on our website is the Take Action page. Last week, I put a link on there to a new or refreshed list of financial relief opportunities for people in the entertainment industry. There's also Power the Polls, if you can sign up to be a poll worker, because there's a massive shortage. All kinds of other resources are on that website.
So also, too, I'd like to give a little homework if anyone's interested in some homework. CNN has a series with W. Kamau Bell called United Shades of America. And this previous episode on this week was called The Time for Reparations. So what I felt like it did was explain reparations in a way that, white people can understand.
Yeah.
And it just explains, what they are and why it needs to happen and how we can all move past guilt and those kinds of things if we just, settle on a solution.
Great.
As the beginning of a solution.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll throw a link on our website for that and in the show notes. All right, let's get on with our interview, shall we? Romeo Santiago is a location scout and manager for commercials, music videos, still shoots, and many other things like the episodic show The Biggest Loser. He started in the business in 1993. He came up as a production assistant and dabbled in coordinating. One day while on set, a producer asked Romeo if he had a camera and asked him if he could go scout something the next day because their regular wasn't available. He took his Nikon and shot, processed the photos at the local lab, mounted them onto legal folders, remember those? And the presentation was so good that it started his career.
Well, now we know how old he is.
Yes.
Since then, he has worked for Pitka Film, Tool, Dector Film, I love Dector, Scott Miller and Company, Bob Industries, NBC, and so many more.
And remember, guys, this is pre-coronavirus, but it was a great interview to hear.
And we may have been drinking during it.
We may have been drinking for this. Let's take a listen. Christian, we have our first in-studio guest.
I know. I'm very excited about this. I happen to be in LA on a job, and Lawrence and I were able to meet in studio together.
Fancy.
I know.
Romeo, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming down.
So we started with a little bit of background about you, but what are you working on now? Give us a little recap of what's going on with you and location scouting and managing.
I was supposed to scout something today, but this was important.
Oh,
so I was able to push it to tomorrow.
Thank you.
So
Thank
tomorrow
you.
I'm scouting farmers markets.
Nice.
Oh,
So I get lucky.
Sunday.
Well, because they're all in
Get some
function on
strawberries.
Sunday. I could probably, get more luck scouting farmer markets on Sunday that exist as opposed to ones that don't exist on Monday.
That's true.
That makes sense.
So that's what I'm doing.
Right.
And today for our cocktail, since we're all in the
we're
studio,
all together. We're sharing the same cocktail.
we are trying Slow and Low, 84 proof rock and rye.
84 proof.
Yeah,
Let me
be
see
careful,
this.
Romeo.
I know.
Don't go scouting after.
Well,
You can only smell it.
Ooh,
Delicious.
Wow.
Yeah.
that's
Well, it's
actually
not-
kind of nice.
I know.
it's kind of smooth.
Yeah.
I feel like a country boy drinking this stuff. This is kind of nice.
Are you much of a drinker, Romeo?
Not really. I tend to
Mhm.
fall asleep if I drink a little too much
Yeah.
or get,
Yeah.
talkative. We don't
Yeah.
want to get too talkative.
Well, now we know.
Well, now we
Loosen
know.
up. Mm-hmm.
So, do you find yourself doing more scouting or more location managing, or both? Do you scout and manage the same jobs, or do you break it up?
I mean, I like managing more than scouting
Okay.
because it's given to you. This is what you're dealt with, so you have to work with it.
Yeah.
Scouting is still a little, a little iffy. It's like you're trying to find that needle in the haystack.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you're going up that hill and you're like, oh, I got it. And then they call you and you're like, no, that's not what we want.
No, that's way off.
And then you're like, oh, I just climbed this hill. Let me come back down the hill and
Uh-huh.
redirect.
Yeah.
So I like managing. I still like the job about 90% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
There's that 10% now that's kind of leaves literally a bad taste in your mouth.
Yes.
It's the, I don't know, sometimes the municipalities don't have a backbone with the residents, and so you have to yield to them, or
right. And
sometimes, that. And then the extortion on top of that really leaves a really bad taste in my mouth.
so this is kind of the topic of this episode
Yes.
is location fatigue,
Ah.
right? And I
Mhm.
think LA is definitely experiencing it. I don't know about New York, Christian. What do you think?
New York absolutely does. There's the mayor's list. When you
Mhm.
get your permit from
Yep.
the mayor's office, there's hot zones.
Mm.
So if a neighborhood's been filmed in too much, then it goes right on the hot zone and they cool it down for a year or two.
Well, they give us unofficial moratoriums from the film office. They say, oh, don't
Mhm.
go to this neighborhood. It's been shot too much by television or movies.
Oh, bastards.
I'm always coming in
Dirty
after those
bastards.
guys.
It's money.
It's,
Uh-huh.
I don't
They
have that
Right.
type of money in
Mhm.
Commercialville. So, I always have a resident saying, oh, so-and-so paid me $500 for this to park in front of my house, or $1,000. I'm like, well, I don't got that.
Wow.
So it's, everybody thinks we have a wallet that's endless, and it's,
Oh, I know.
It's not. It's a different time than it was 20 years ago when we all
Yeah.
got into this business 30 years ago. It's different.
It is. Yeah, I used to feel like back in the day, which I know we're not supposed to talk about, but this fits.
Mm-hmm.
People looked at producers as if we were sitting on a pile of cash and just deciding who it went to. In some instances, that was kind of true
Mm-hmm.
when we had big, massive budgets.
Mm-hmm.
Now it is definitely not true. It is the furthest from the truth. And a lot of times it wasn't true. You know, all that money's accounted for and spoken for. And it's challenging to go into these neighborhoods that have been overshot.
Mm-hmm.
They're sick of it. And they want to be compensated. And that's all usually.
They know the game.
They know the game. It really comes
It's
down
a
to that.
side
right?
hustle. And I always tell my colleagues when we're doing this, if we're actually doing our jobs as scouting, we're getting new stuff. I like to go to new neighborhoods.
Yes.
I don't like to go to the same place.
Yes.
Let's not go someplace that's been burnt. Let's
Yeah.
get some new greenery.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And if you're a scout, I think we should be able to do that. And if you guys, as producers, give us an extra day or two, we'll get
Old
that.
Scout,
Mhm.
yeah. I
But
agree.
when you say, go back to Orion Avenue,
Oh, my God.
and then you're like, well, we've all know what it's like. We've shot there, but we're going to pay $3,000 or $4,000 for an HOA or whatever.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
Orion, Orion Avenue is a street. I think it's Sherman Oaks, right?
Yeah, Van Nuys.
Van Nuys.
Mhm,
That
yeah.
is beautiful, picturesque, gorgeous homes, and been shot 3 million times.
Right.
So what the neighbors did, and correct me if I'm wrong, Romeo, is they formed an HOA solely for filming. And that HOA, to film any house on that tiny little street, little residential street, you have to sign an agreement with the
Mhm.
HOA. You pay them a fat fee to the HOA.
Mhm.
And then the agreement in the HOA is that if you park any single thing in front of any of those residents, that residence gets X amount of money.
dollars.
How much?
On legal street
It
parking?
depends.
Yes,
On a
On
permanent
legal
street.
street parking.
So that's why I always say, do your job as a scout and go elsewhere.
Yeah.
Go to 2 or 3 blocks north, south.
But, these days, I remember, we used to have 14 days to go scouting
I
or
know.
whatever. Now we got 3 days.
Now we got 3 days.
And so what are you going to do? You're going to go, I know this house exists on Orion Street.
And then that's what we end up going to. And then you're like, okay, well, you're going
Or-
to pay.
Yeah.
Because you also reach out to house agents, I like to call them out
Yes.
here.
Oh, location services?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's some good ones and there's some not so good
Of
ones.
course. Well, I'm sure you have relationships.
And
with
that's
some,
and that's what this business is. It's all
Mhm.
about relationships we built. So
and that saves time.
yes, it
When-
saves time and it
unfortunately.
cuts to the chase. You know,
Mhm.
X amount is going to be this, and then this is what I have in my budget, and we make it work for this. But sometimes, it's a different mentality because these people think they're always going to get the same amount for their house.
Uh-huh.
Nevertheless, the format.
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's
They don't
gonna-
understand the difference between the
Yeah.
format budgets.
It's hard to describe to them. Like when I tell them this is going to be for the internet or it's just going to be, in house. They're like always saying, "Really?" And then a month or two later, it's shown somewhere else, and you're like, "I'll get a call." They're like, "Hey, we just saw this at 2 a.m. on TV." You're like, "I apologize. I
Yeah.
didn't know. I don't know how they're going to show this."
And that is something that, we have to put out when we do castings. What is the initial intent
Right.
for the use of this project? And that is what the casting fees are based on. Nothing else is based on that. So when you go to talk to residents, say, oh, this is only internal, it's only for the web, that probably is the initial intent of usage.
Yes.
But then somewhere down the line, they look at what other licenses are involved, what
And
other,
they're like-
and
The
They're like,
location contract says that
we-
something
in
vague,
perpetuity.
Like,
It's so
Nothing.
vague. So they're like, "Oh, well,
we can use this for
paragraph
anything.
this says we could use it for the side
so
of a truck."
so
or
then
whatever.
that turns us into liars.
And I don't like to lie because this business is all about honesty
it's your integrity.
and relationships that we've built
Mhm.
over 2 or 3 decades. And people don't understand the new
2 or 3 decades. How old do you think I am?
Yeah, well,
I mean,
Lawrence, I remember when you had more hair on the forehead here.
Very true.
You had more back when you and I met.
I remember too.
So
Uh-huh.
you were a younger, leaner man. So
Okay, it has been 20 years.
it's been some time, but this business is all about loyalty. I like to use the same vendors. I came up as a PA, and I still use the same permit service. I use the same police. For me, it's about loyalty because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you want to have that type of relationship.
Yeah.
Producers, unfortunately, they come and go, but I'm still going to work with these people on the next job.
Right. Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
and the thing is with producers nowadays, I find myself working for people half my age, and they call
Well-
themselves producers, and I'm like,
Uh-huh.
well, what is your background? How did you get to be a producer? Do you know what we need to do for the process to have this happen the way you want it to happen. What I find nowadays is the younger people don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Well, I mean, there's titles given out sometimes to individuals that that may not fall under the realm of what we do as producing,
Natural
or
producer,
the way we came up in the production world.
mean,
but
put in time.
But that's a big part of why we're doing this podcast.
Mhm.
Rather than lamenting about, oh, it was so good back in the 90s, everything was amazing. No, rather than doing that, we want to kind of educate the young producers that are coming up now in this rapidly changing media landscape about the process that has been instilled in this industry over decades. And, it's theirs to change it. But at least they have the background.
They have to have a standard. They have to maintain a standard. Because this is how it's
set
done.
protocol and like structure.
Yeah. We can't supersede the way things are. We can't keep doing shortcuts because people are going to get hurt.
Yes.
And I'm all about safety.
Safety first.
At the end of the night, I want to go home to see my wife and kids. I want my security guys. I want everybody to go home. My layout board guys, everybody on my vendor sheet. Everybody needs to go home at the end of the night.
Yeah. That's all we want to do.
Yeah.
Is go home.
At the end of the night, after 16, 18 hours.
Well, no, we want to get home earlier than that.
Well, yeah.
Not locations first.
Not for you.
When somebody's on the call sheet says, oh, yeah, I'll come at 4:30. I'm like, are you serious? If I come at 4:30, the poop's going to hit the fan. Nothing's going to be right. So I come when caterer comes. Like, I have to unlock the gate. I get there at 3:30. I get there at 3.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So
and then why? Hey, what's this overtime?
What is this overtime? I'm like, well, if I didn't open the gate at 3, the caterer would have been sitting on the street cooking there, and then he had to move into position. And they look, they're like, oh.
And Romeo, I've had that happen. I've had location managers show up a half hour before call, and it was a shit show that my production managers have saved because what happened here? Somebody didn't think it was important to get there at 3 a.m.
But that's the thing. I know I've done my job. When I look at everybody and I see everybody running around doing their job, then I take a breath and go, okay, I'll enjoy my BLT. I did my job. I got everybody in. I landed the unit, parked everything. And this was way before the Teamsters even came into commercials. I used to park the whole unit.
That's right. I remember
That's
that.
how they do it in New York, by the way.
I parked everybody.
What, location manager?
Location manager parks everybody, including the Teamsters. We don't have gang bosses. They don't come on the tech scout.
That's right.
The only person who can is locations.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I love the guys that I work with. They're great. They get it. They help me a lot. They take a lot off my plate when I have to deal with an angry resident down the street who's upset that there's a motorhome in front of their house. At least I could talk to them one-on-one while he's landing the rest of the unit.
Yeah, that motorhome for one day on the street.
Interesting.
Yeah, that really helps. and that's why I like transportation captains. There's some really good ones out there.
Yeah.
So I applaud everybody for working together.
Lifesavers. Agreed. When I finally kind of graduated into union commercials, it wasn't long after the Teamsters kind of stepped in. Because I started in features, and I was trying so hard to get into commercials, and the way I had to do it was do with these low-budget, non-union things. And then once I got into the union landscape and the Teamster landscape, I was like, I love you guys. This is amazing. The work they do and the way they move these trucks around.
The way they park,
them.
it's so precise, and it's, and
they think about every aspect of the job, company move, like who needs to come in first, everything.
One thing we should say, Romeo, you're based in LA and work on the West Coast. Christian, you're East Coast mostly, although you work everywhere. In a future episode, we need to talk to an East Coast, New York style location manager because there are definitely some differences.
Yeah, I've heard there's difference in how they save parking over there.
Coneheads.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I'm like
parking PAs.
Well, for protecting parking, I always find it behooves us to have somebody overnight now.
It does.
If you want to have that spot tomorrow,
clear,
let's pay the extra $300 or something to get somebody to sit there overnight, just to be as a courtesy to the residents or the merchants. We're coming tomorrow. Please move your vehicle before 6 a.m.
And I think this is a part of location fatigue, is we used to just be able to put up the signs.
And people would read them.
And honor them because this is a filming city.
But now people don't read it because there's a little confusion sometimes. There's like 6 signs on top of each other. I call it the totem pole. And I can't blame some of the residents because I look at the sign, I'm like, this is for Thursday, this is for Wednesday, this is for Tuesday. Where's the one applicable to me? Yeah. It's a Sunday, and you're like, well, that's why they park there because
it's confusing.
It's very confusing.
And also, I think people don't give a shit anymore.
Well,
can we say that?
I just think they don't read.
Well, I don't think that there's any
tired,
repercussions
they get home.
to them parking.
I mean, it says tow away.
Yeah, I don't like towing. I feel bad. Towing is karma for me. I feel like I'll go out of my way to knock on doors and have security move people around.
Yeah.
But I hate towing because it's $300, $400.
I do remember in the 90s, we towed a lot.
We tow in New York.
But I felt awful about it.
But I always see a lot of production managers when that resident comes back and goes, "Where's my car?" And then if the resident balks a lot, PM will just give in and go, "Okay, here's the money for your tow." And I've seen that happen a lot. It's like people give in. It's like, "Okay, please don't get upset. Here's $400. Go get your car." And they're like, "Okay." I've seen that a lot last year, and I thought that was weird.
So again, just in a difference, NYPD, when you pay for the tow service to come on, they'll just tow the car to a legal space down the street.
Oh, that's nice.
I know. So
that's kind of different.
All right, LA.
Well, I mean, I did a music video last December, and the permit was not correct because it was a music video, and they didn't do it right. So as a courtesy, I know a guy. So I called him, and he moved
That's why you hire Romeo.
He moved the cars that I needed out of the shot, which was nice. I didn't want to. I'm not like that. I don't want to create havoc for other people.
I mean,
even though they can't read, it's still.
But too, 6 hours into the day, inviting them to catering isn't going to stop the anger.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's LA people. It's like, all right. Price of doing business here.
Price of doing business, exactly.
So, Romeo, we're kind of talking about all these facets of your job and the way we work. So, and that's something we want to get into is how do you kind of go about, what are your first steps when a job lands in your inbox, you're put on hold or a job's booked and you get some scripts or boards and you look at them? What are your first thoughts? Because you as a location manager, and, I have a lot of directors that maybe they have their favorite scout or whatever, or we already know what location we're going to. But I always insist, okay, I'll hire your scout. I want my location manager, at least if I'm in LA, because like you said, loyalty, relationships, and I know how you work. And, there was a time where, budgets were a little flush and we'd go into a neighborhood that was problematic. I'd give you a wad of cash and you just made all the problems go away. And I never had to hear about anything. I really didn't.
Well, it's not you shouldn't have to hear about it. You have to deal with your client.
Right.
And that's how I always. So
you're the head of the department. That's for you to handle.
I like to do rogue things to make sure everything's done. The great thing about Lawrence is, as long as it's been taken care of, it's not important to him how it's been done. As long as it's taken care of, don't fill my brain up with these things.
Well, yeah,
and I don't need to.
Don't bore us with the chorus.
Don't bore us with
say.
Exactly.
But of course,
details
it's all
not
done.
Necessary.
I will footnote that it's all done legally and ethically.
Oh yeah,
and all in accordance with production company guidelines.
Yes, I get chip receipts, and it's
yes. Nowadays, those things have changed and budgets have shrunk, and we don't have wads of cash to hand out to neighbors.
And you're not always working with people you know.
You're not always working with people you know. So all these things kind of come into effect. So I'm sorry, I sidebarred, but. Going into that, what are your first steps when you look at a project?
Well, like next week's job, for example, they tell me they have a house they're interested. There's 2 houses in contention. So I ask the location service for what the address is. So I see what I got myself into because, I don't know if it's a good neighborhood or a bad neighborhood.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, they say, oh, okay, can you marry something to this? So I'll go out and scout something that I have to marry to that house, for example. But what I like to do is see what the area is like. I like to know what I got myself into. I might run try to see if it's been filmed a lot.
Yeah,
of course.
I want to know what
you send it over to the permit office
do a frequency report.
Yeah.
See what they say. Hey, this is a hot zone. No, it's not a hot zone. You're fine. And then from there, I'm like, oh, okay. And then from there, I dissect that email. It can be very vague, but then I'll go, okay, what are the shoot dates? What's your budget? How big is your crew? And this is where all the truth comes out from a producer.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say a week down the line when they told you it's a crew of 20 and you have a crew of 60, and then you look at the call sheet, you see 80, you're like,
who does
that?
I'm sorry.
How did this go from a 20 to 80?
Yeah.
That's not only calling you a liar on the permit because you've turned it in, it's also hindering our production.
And I'm now looking for a parking lot that has to be 3 times the size for a base camp or crew parking. So,
in a day,
yeah. You went from 20 and they're like, oh, we have behind the scenes now. We have entourage. Oh, we added a star motorhome. And you're like, oh. So now from a small production got big.
Yeah.
So, but
which is,
it happens.
Kind of what happens. Not to that extreme.
Yeah.
Right. But our jobs do grow.
They do grow.
They do grow. It takes more people than we think at first blush.
The moment it does, though, the call to the keys.
Yeah.
Departments to say, hey, it's grown. Hey. It would be a heads up.
Yeah.
Because each department has to take that information and
and
then
share it. Yeah, they, like I have to call my security guys. I
exactly.
call my permit services, and I always check, are you guys open, and make sure this is available. So my permit service will also look in there and say, oh, I'll ask them, do you have any other permits running in that area? And then they'll tell me, oh, no, that's okay. Or you have another crew around the corner, and I'll be like,
Right.
oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's happening to me next week.
So somebody's
The
already holding
the
that
place where we would have parked is
taken.
so we're going to be a
There's
little
some
further
interest.
away.
But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, the process is I look at that email, I dissect it, I see what I got myself into. It's all about information, what the producer's about to convey. And
Interesting.
usually it's pretty truthful, but sometimes you'll get a little rogue and you're like, oh, that's not right. You
It doesn't allow you to do your job, and it doesn't benefit anybody.
no,
No.
but I don't
No.
know why they do that.
We don't either.
No, but that's what we're trying to
That's what we're trying to
explore is
explore.
so
Right.
knowing that
I mean, your point, man. You should be
you
honest.
are. So when you first interact with a producer, sounds like you already told us exactly what you need, like crew size and budget and those things. But is there anything what type of support are you expecting from a producer?
A producer who usually has a good production manager, and they always tell me, hey, reach out to so-and-so. They'll get you all your insurance certs. They'll get all your location agreements. They'll do all your POs. And that really helps.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all about emailing, and usually Lawrence will have a really good PM, and we'll go back and forth, texts, we'll email, and things will get done within minutes. Sometimes you get on a job where you email the PM or coordinator, and they're like 5 hours later, like,
hello.
We've been busy. We've been getting ready for a pre-pro. I'm like, okay, but I needed this insurance cert, like
yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now it's going to hold up the permit. They're like, why didn't you tell us? I'm like, look at, I keep a detailed timestamp of everything on the emails. I'm like, well, I reached out to you 5 hours ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't bother approaching about anything. Unless I need something, I'll reach out to them. Otherwise, you'll never get an email from me or a text.
That is true.
So just know that when it comes in from you,
it's urgency.
Yeah.
It's not like, hello, what did you do last weekend? It's
so support for you is staffing and financial.
It's a good team.
Well, I do notice that in LA, there's a lot more checks required and payments required. There's several different departments within the location that get paid.
Well, everybody wants payment up front now. Because,
of course.
Things
Trust.
have happened in the past, And I can use my relationship.
Burn me once.
So far with like the parking vendor or the permit service, but at the end of the day, everybody wants something to show that they're getting paid.
Well, you don't want that call a month from now either that says, hey, that job we did a month ago? We've not been paid yet.
Yeah, that's
Can you check on that?
They're like, then it's embarrassing because now I need him next week for that another lot, So it's all about relationships and how to succeed in this business.
Exactly.
We can't be any fly-by-night people.
Well, there are.
And that's bad.
And what are those red flags?
Right, but how do you know?
How do you know? And what signs do you get from a producer that it is maybe a little shady, or it is going off the rails, or there might be something they're not telling you? Like, do you ever get those kind of moments where you're like, wait a minute?
When they say they don't have any money, and then I see a process trailer, techno crane,
off-the-shelf catering.
They say they have no money, and I see all kinds of expenses, and I'm like, wow, for a job that doesn't have any money, you're spending.
Techno crane is a huge giveaway.
The techno crane and a process trailer, all these little pieces on one day. Come on.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I'm not totally blind to silliness.
Right.
So there's money there, but obviously not towards our department. I know you guys have to always shift money towards other departments that are under and over and all that, and I get it. I do my best to try to.
But would it help? So here's a question: would it help you if how I would approach that would be, hey, we're going to have a process trailer and a techno crane and all kinds of toys with an 80-person crew, but I only have $15,000 for location.
And that's
Tell me how I can do this.
All my money is going to these tools my director needs.
Right.
Well, then we have to do it either after hours, on the weekend.
Right. But using you as a source to make a solution to the problem instead of saying, I have no money for you.
Yeah,
and then
surprising
you.
Then ask me and I'll tell you how we can fix this. I find myself as a fixer a lot of the times. I'm like, well,
of course, locations managers are fixers.
This is how you can fix this if you want it to work for $15,000.
You are a fixer in a sense that you are calming the neighborhood. You're making sure that we're all going to be parked and fed and
and to be
and there's
invited
holding
back.
for you.
We want to be
and
invited back.
Of course.
That's the thing is,
that's all freelancers.
we all have longevity. I mean, we're going to be doing this for a while. I mean,
knock on wood.
So let's be welcome back. That's how I look at it. Some people are like, nah, we'll never come back here. I'm like, don't say never. Never say never.
Never say never.
Because you might.
Although I can say that I know for sure that I'll never be able to afford to film in Pasadena again.
Oh, what happened? Really? Really?
I don't know. I don't know if that's true. I mean, has it? Pasadena's notoriously
expensive.
Well,
expensive.
When people say, "Oh, Santa Monica, Pasadena, all the police officer rates are over $100 an hour," it's like those. They don't get that. They get half of that,
right?
And the other half goes to the city.
Goes to the city. Exactly.
So I just don't want people to think, "Oh, cops are making $100 some, $125."
No, they're not. Yeah.
But I mean, I get
it is expensive, but
right.
They have a look. I mean, there's definitely a look there that you can.
I'm saying I don't know if I can afford them again. I'm not. I love Pasadena. I think it's a beautiful town.
Yeah, no,
I think everyone
sure.
should film there if you can.
Yes.
But I've had to start looking, like you said, in other neighborhoods.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot.
Koreatown,
like I said
or
earlier,
Echo
if you're
Park.
a scout, you'll do your job. You'll go to other municipalities.
Well, I'm finding Koreatown or Echo Park. There's large houses in these areas that haven't been overfilmed yet. And there's not fatigue.
And if you're willing to drive like the Hacienda Heights, La Puente, West Covina, there's large houses there too.
In the zone.
But for some reason, it is in the zone.
Exactly.
For some people, once they see the 605, they're like, "Oh, where is that? It's too far." I'm like, "Open your eyes. It's just on the other side of that freeway."
You're making something happen for 15,000.
Yeah,
right.
You're not going to get 15,000 in Paso Donuts.
Exactly.
You need
Donuts.
You need to go to West Covina.
Right. But that's what I would do. I would try to rely on the department that I'm dealing with, like the location department, to solve an issue that I have.
And that's good. When you do that ahead of time, we could kind of direct you and steer you. This is where you should think and consider going. Don't go to Abbott Kinney and Mar Vista where it's overshot. And then you want that look, and then you're complaining about the money. It's like, just because some agency guy stayed there 2 weeks ago, he now wants to go shopping there. That's not going to help your budget. I mean, no offense, but I see that all.
Nailed it.
all the time.
You know this business so well, Romeo.
I know. You're very
somebody
observant.
ate dinner there, and they're like, "Oh, I want to film here tomorrow." I'm like, "Well, cough up some money, buddy."
Yeah.
I mean.
So aside from having a strong production manager and being upfront and honest about the scope of the job at the get-go, are there other aspects that you've seen in the producers you like to work with that help you do your job? You're so autonomous, though, so might not go anywhere, but you know your job so well, and you go off and you do it, and you don't really bother us unless there's a problem. Are there other things that production do to support you in what you do?
Well, a producer that will look after me or the crew and say, "Hey, after certain hours, you should go. You don't need to be here. Save some time here on your overtime," or they'll cut me loose, knowing that the next day I'll have to be here super early.
Your turnaround.
My turnaround, and they'll accommodate that. But a good producer will always look out not only for the production, but for me. I'm a human too, I feel,
right.
I've just put 16, 18-hour days for the last 3 days. How about just letting me take a breather?
Yeah.
Let me have that.
So a little humanity.
Yeah, we're all here to work and have a good time sometimes. That's the good thing about this job. I get to see things people normally would pay to see.
I know.
I mean, we're all blessed in this industry that people pay to go on vacation here, and I'm here for I get to work it. Vegas or I get to go to Seattle, or I get to go to whatever, wherever they send us. It's a good job. That's why I still like it.
I remember doing a lot of car jobs in the late 90s and being on the side of some gorgeous mountain at 4:30 in the morning, watching the sunrise in some city I would never just choose to go to on my own and be like, this is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, you know how many people would give just to have that ability to get out of bed and see sunrise every day? Early on in the career, I'm like, oh, this stinks. I'd have to wake up.
Me too.
But now I'm like, I appreciate being able to see a sunrise and a sunset every day. It's a lot of people don't. And I think we are blessed in that sense that, the sucky hours suck, but
Listen, I also feel that we choose what we do for a living as freelance people. So if we're no longer happy, we should choose to do something else.
Go. Like I said, I like the job 90% of the
time. I love every morning I wake up and I can't believe I have this job still.
Yes. It's
every day.
It's people try to get they aspire to get into these positions, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a good job.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
I love my job.
we're blessed,
Mm-hmm.
and I think as long as it goes the way it's still going, and we still smile a little bit once in a while, we'll be okay.
Right.
If it's not the clients. Going back to the producing thing,
Yeah.
I find, I don't know, some producers can't reel in their client or the director. What's up with that?
So
is that trying to just keep their longevity to stay in good terms with them, or
it's a dance,
Mm-hmm.
and every dance is different, and there are some directors that, yes, it's a longevity thing. There's certain ways you can push them and control them, and there are just some ways you can't.
Okay.
There's also a political thing going
Aspect.
on between you and the advertising agency.
Mm-hmm.
There may have been some promises that they made without you knowing, or some things that were in the deck, the treatment,
Yes.
before you kind of even start, and it's like,
Now you have to
But we don't
fulfill
we have
have
to
this.
deliver it.
Mhm.
So yeah, I gotta
Oh.
figure out how to do this, and I can't shut it down. And then sometimes you just might have a bulldozer of a director that you have no control over. That's rare, but that does happen.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some producers that can't control it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just like going back to Pasadena or other municipalities. When they say 10 p.m. wrap, it is a hard out.
Oh yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't care
I
who
know.
you are.
I
No.
know.
Your trucks will sit there at 10:01, and you'll come back the next day. So when I start to get fidgety, I always warn everybody 2 hours before our pumpkins.
Mm-hmm.
It's 8. You got 2 hours. You got another hour to shoot. And
It's my favorite thing that a location manager does out here.
What's that?
We have 2 hours to get out of here.
I mean, you want to keep, and I've been in places where they get like just keep shooting and rapping at the same time. I'm like, that's not going to work. And then now I have to rely on my relationship with the officer who I've been talking to for the last 8 hours, and he'll be like, okay, I'll give you a little grace, and then I'm like, thank you, I appreciate that. And it's same thing. It's a relationship we've built with these guys, and if they're like really nice and they we get a good rapport, then let us stay.
Right.
Mhm.
So that's all about the relationships we all have with these guys. CHP, LAPD, Pasadena, Beverly Hills. It's all about relationships. So if producers are going to rely on us for that type of assistance,
Mm-hmm.
they also have to do their job and say, oh, we do need to leave at 10. But
Yeah.
he's going to give
Right.
us a 30-minute or 1 hour grace.
Hmm.
So as an upcoming producer for a new producer, keep that in mind. We're here to help you guys. We want to get your shots, but don't push it.
Yeah, right. So have you seen changes in LA in terms of location fatigue? Have you seen it shift? Because obviously Orion, we've talked about Orion Avenue.
Right.
Pasadena is
Mhm.
expensive. Altadena, I think, maybe is
Mhm.
getting a little
It's getting
fussy.
there. Yeah.
Have you seen location fatigue shift different areas, or different vendors, or different neighborhoods?
Well, I see. As you know, the budgets have gotten smaller, and the prep times are gone. The scouting days are gone. I see us now getting calls a week before the shoot. It's like, oh,
Wow.
we need this location, and we need it cleared. And now I'm like, okay, I'll drop whatever I'm doing. I'll go help and do it. But then I see these locations that are kind of asinine. You're like, you want to film here? I could film somewhere else and it'll be better. And they're like, no, this is what we want. This is what the agency presented already, and it's booked. And you're like, oh.
Has it been booked off of a service or off of a place like Peer Space or something?
Peer Space and Gigster and all those places, they have now come into play.
Yeah,
Yes,
how does
they
that
have.
affected you?
Well,
Mhm.
it frustrates me in a sense where they're like, hey, look, we got this for this amount. How come you can get it for this amount? I'm like, yeah, but that's for like 10 or 15 people. You're coming in with 30 to 60. It's going to change once you start talking to this homeowner. And it does evolve. And then they start like, oh, no, now we want 5,000. Now you're back to the same rate that you were going to pay a location service.
Right.
So these small Gigster and Peer Spaces, I call it bait and switch.
It kind of is. I was talking to a friend who was saying, oh, you should check this out for what you do. I said, I have looked at those things, and a lot of them, that price
Mhm.
is for a crew of 10.
Yes.
And for 6 hours,
And for
like
6 hours or
hours.
8 hours.
Or-
and so
and there's
it's like,
very limited hours you can get in there,
and some of them are small, and they can't
You can't park the whole crew.
You can't
No.
put
trucks there.
an 80, 100 person crew
And there's no
there.
posting. There's
Yeah.
this
At
whole
all.
and a lot of those places don't get permits. I'm starting to realize it's like, oh, they didn't pull a permit. They're just going there, hoping no one will say anything. And I see that.
Yeah.
The main question I'm asked is private property. I'm like,
Well, yeah.
I mean, come on, guys.
Private.
I don't.
Where are you going to
come
hide these
on.
5 cubes on
Where-
this private property?
Yeah,
You're going
come
to
on.
stagger them down the street, and
Yeah.
somebody just go, I think you're filming here. Let me see your permit. And then you'll be like, permit? Oh no.
Oh, it's print.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're a crew of 10. I see 10 there. I see 10 here. I see 20 over there. I mean,
Yeah.
Right. There's times when as budgets have gone, when we have to do without a location manager.
I've seen and heard that.
So what I'll do sometimes is contact a scout and just say, can I pay you a day to just let me look at your files?
Okay, look, or we'll help finesse your permit. We'll push it through for you. We'll help you pinpoint what you need to
do that,
doing.
Romeo? Do you file pulls? I don't even really know what that means on your end. I know we use that term a lot, but what do you consider a file pull, and do you do that?
I mean, I'll file pull to an extent, but I always have learned
share your secrets, basically.
File pulling, it's I don't know. Producers nowadays, they want you to do a file pull, but it's like we're not going to give you the whole kitchen sink here.
I know.
We'll show you some. But we've learned as location people, you don't want to give them everything.
Yeah,
because if you give them everything, then there's some unscrupulous producers out there. They'll go behind your back and reach out to them and do things. And I've seen that.
Wow,
really?
Yeah,
I'm shocked.
Really? The audacity.
I would never think to do that.
No, Christian literally just clutched her purse.
So yeah,
Nice.
so we've all learned to be very protective of our contacts.
I mean, I think we do the same thing when companies call us and they say, "Oh, who do you use for this?" or what do you do for that?" or "Can you take a look at my budget and tell me what?" And it's like, we might help you a little.
Yeah, we're here to help. And I'll help with a file pull, just try to get a job awarded. But you need to really
get
actually
the management job. You would.
I would help facilitate. Yeah, I'll give you a few options. I'll suggest.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think you need to actually still scout it. I mean, I've been on jobs where they've done file pulls.
Yeah.
And then you've gone to the
you
go to the location
and
your director scouting, and then like, hey, that building is gone.
We've all done that.
And that file pull was like 2 or 3 years old, and you're like,
yeah,
happened to me in China.
Do you keep files?
I keep files.
You do,
but I mean, like I always say, this is just a reference.
Yeah.
But I think
3 years old, the photos.
Yeah, these are 3. I think after 2 or
change, color of house
after 2 or 3 years, the bushes have grown, everything's different. So I like the cold scout. I'd like to actually do my job.
Yeah.
And
but your job description has changed from when you first started doing it, though.
I mean, sometimes it's like a psychologist.
That's what it's morphing into
exactly.
now. Though.
You have to read the homeowner, you got to read the production company, you got to read the director, you got to read the producer.
Right, but the days of cold scouting are basically, I'm not going to say over, but
it
so
still
now
happens.
you've changed occasionally.
It does still happen, yeah.
But the moment you give a file pull to a producer, they may even keep those files.
Oh, we all know it's
not the
folders. We all know it's
around.
kept on Dropbox and it's all shared with thousands of other producers. We're not silly.
If I were only that organized,
I don't keep anything.
I don't keep anything.
Really
Are you kidding?
I don't.
Well, I just know
we rely on you to keep it.
I keep call sheets.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, good. You keep call sheets. Yeah, we keep files, but it's just like
where's that house I had? And like, no.
Well, there's some unscrupulous producers out there. That's all I'm going to tell you.
For you, what would an unscrupulous producer do to you? Part of this podcast is talking to the young producers out there and educating them on the right way of being a producer and what it means to be a good producer. Mm-hmm. What does an unscrupulous producer look like to you?
Well, somebody who will, let's say... it
can be an anecdote. We don't have to name names.
Yeah, of course I wouldn't.
No names.
Somebody who will take our files, get the addresses, and not call us to manage. And then the job has happened. And then I'll get a call from that homeowner saying, hey, so-and-so's at my house. They damaged this. What should I do? And then I'm like, they used that house.
The house that you showed
that I showed.
Them, and they didn't pay
and
you.
They didn't compensate me. And now they're shooting rogue. And you're like,
that's shady.
It's all about honesty. It'll come back full circle. We'll know who did what.
Wow.
So I've had that happen. So
that homeowner too is
upset. And then
disservice. They don't want you to offer their house again.
Because now they're like, hey, you showed our house to them. Now this is kind of on you. And I'm like, well, I didn't do the damage. It makes me in a hard situation. So for producers, the bottom line is they got to be honest with, the location manager, production manager, be honest with your budgets. Tell us what you really have. We'll perform. I'll give 110%. As long as you're upfront with me.
It seems like you don't know how to give any less. I feel that.
So, that's how I am. With that work ethic, I think we'll all succeed. And I think That's all. At the end of the day, is what we want to do.
Yeah,
is perform.
Absolutely. Awesome, Romeo. Thank you for spending some time with us and chatting.
Oh, you're welcome.
Romeo, wait. How can people get a hold of you?
My emails are real simple. Romeo at iCloud.com.
Romeo.
There you go.
Nice.
All right. Thanks, Romeo.
Thank
All right.
you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks to Romeo Santiago for that pre-coronavirus interview.
Oh, yeah. I mean, good stuff, right?
Yeah.
So the show was edited and co-produced by Rob Blumke.
Artwork and logo design by Christopher Daniels.
And our music was composed by Kyle Puccia.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We're back next week. Until then, stay safe, stay connected, and stay active.
Yeah, and you know what? Wash your damn hands. It's still a thing.
Wash your hands.
Wash them, like really good. 20 seconds. Don't touch your face. Clean your phone and wear a mask. It only protects you and everybody else.
Be sure to send us your voice recordings or your emails or questions to producershappyhour@gmail.com.
Lawrence, how can people reach you if they want to get you?
LawrenceTLewis.com or voiceoflawrence.com for voiceover work. How about you?
People can get me at sisterchristianproduces.com.
Bye, all.
See ya.